Hello again. I did promise in the last video, not that you're obligated to watch it, but I would appreciate it if you did, that I will be doing a double feature for a day, maybe two. Though I'm aiming for more, but obviously there's limits of what I can do in my time, even going all speed ahead, so to speak. That said, though, I will still do my best, and I hope you'll put up with this. This video is going to be unique in that since I already played a new game today, I'm going to revisit one of the previous games I've done to dive deeper and honestly just have fun with it in front of the camera. That said, this one is going to be extra special because I'm going to try to do some voiceover. Again, my mic is not reliable enough to do it as the footage is running, but I will try to do some voiceovers in post, aka in the editing phase, and add them in when appropriate. How this will look, how this will sound, who knows? It'll be scuffed as all heck though, but hey, this is just a test and you're not obligated to see the whole thing through anyway. Hopefully, this isn't too much work. Though, knowing my luck, rendering alone will probably push it to the next day anyway. That's it. Enough dallying. Let's go ahead and start this video now. Welcome to the voiceover. If you're hearing this, it means that despite the hassle this has all been so far, I decided that it was going to go ahead and be worth it enough to follow through with the experiment after all. Hopefully, this means good things on both of our parts. And even if it doesn't, and even if you don't wind up enjoying it, which would be unfortunate, but I do accept that that might be the case, it is certainly still a learning experience on my part. So I do appreciate your patience in this matter. I get to finally figure out what these altars are for by the end of the video, so do stay tuned for that. I'm not ashamed to say that the pictures of the food in this game are incredible and incredibly appetizing. Shame that any attempt that I could make to replicate these foods is doomed to end in failure. It's just too much work. Admittedly, I am annoyed that ranged weapons have a maximum range and then the projectile just disappears. I believe that it should follow, if there is going to be a maximum range, then there should be a projectile drop or something of that nature. But from what I've seen later in the video, and from my own experience, ranged weapons do have a variety of projectile styles and different ranges as well. So maybe I'm just bad at the game, or maybe there's accessories that cover that. I suppose we'll both find out later. Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't really know what happened here. I just completely fumbled handling this big guy. Maybe I should have gone straight to melee once I realized that and tried to stay closer, but that doesn't always work out either. I'll get better over time though. The classic, your body gets in the way of your own weapon issue. It's not really an issue, but you can't aim straight down. Your body gets in the way of a perfect straight down, and if you try to wiggle it around, as you can see here, your sprite just flips around. So there's a small area directly underneath you that you can't easily fire in. I suspect, though, that at least for this starting weapon, that might be intentional, so that you can't easily cheese enemies by standing on a platform directly over them if they don't have a way to reach you. But that's just a guess on my part. Yeah, fair warning, I'm also bad with numbers and math, so you're gonna see me go back and forth from normal gameplay to the restaurant quite often because I forget exactly how much more emptiness, how much more empty the character's belly needs to be in order to eat another meal. As I just said. I also think that the little smiles on the items you've bought, and later on, as you'll see, frowns on items that are not that are no longer available inside the restaurant are quite cute. admittedly, I do have a hard time dealing with this tornado dark energy attack. Especially since it can occur both clockwise and counterclockwise, and I haven't yet gotten the hang of dash fight yet. Especially since at this point in the game, they don't grant you any invincibility frames. Something I do wish the game did is that it will give you a brief snippet of information when you're hovering under one of the non-weapon items that the game can offer you. Because here you'll see that it does tell me what the sword is, both its description and everything it does, but it doesn't tell me what the other two items are. The anvil is to allow you to enhance an item. I think only weapons, but I haven't tried it with accessories, and I think I will next time. Well, not next time in this video, as you'll see, but next time I do a video on the game. I also. Oh, and the coffee cup summons the restaurant lady, Horerica, or I'm just gonna call her Heroica because I'm pretty sure those letters are an anagram of that anyway, or close enough. Now, here I buy the tall glass of lemonade, which wasn't a bad option, but I should have gone for one of the ones that actually grants you most of stats as well as hunger, or move satiety, or satiety? I'll have to look up how to pronounce that later too. Because I didn't know you can only buy one of these items, which I suppose is fair enough since they're all only 200, and I guess that might be a little busted, but well, I wouldn't know for sure. I'm not the developer after all. Honestly, not sure how I feel about them yet. They're a little hard to spot, though not for long. But they are shown up in red on the mini-map, if you'll see there. I don't look at it often enough, so maybe it's a knowledge gate of sorts, but it takes some getting used to. I'll just leave it at that. Luckily, most traps deactivate uh, when all the enemies in the room are clear, but as you'll see later, there is a difference between traps and hazards. Also, something that I just noticed because of this room, enemies don't have infinite awareness range. I'm not sure if it's a different awareness range in the X or Y or in the X or Y axis, but unless you get close enough to an enemy, they won't actually start attacking you. Like that Lich type enemy should have started bombarding me with ice crystals if they actually noticed me, but they don't until later. And I think that's actually a wonderful mechanic, making sure that you aren't unfairly swarmed the second you enter a room, or at least most of the time. I do feel like there are some exceptions to that rule. And as you can see here, I am also bad at timing. Slight spoilers for later in the video, but you're gonna see me use one of these weapons later in the run, and boy, they were a lot of fun, but very hard to wrap your head around. Admittedly, I do like games that have items that orbit around your character or generally hover around and do some of the work for you. Now, rooms like this start showing up somewhat rarely. I'm not sure if there's some secret to get up into the upper part of the room, or if it's meant to like mess with you in that way. I suppose we'll figure out later if the former is true, or never if the latter is true. Something that becomes clear quite early on, you'll always want to try to find the restaurant on your floor as fast as you can, if only so you get more chances to eat by emptying your stomach, since only new undiscovered rooms, aka rooms that you enter for the first time, actually empty it. Dude, I forgot to hit that barrel before I left. Well, that's gonna bother me for a while, until I inevitably forget about it. Heh. I think this is my first time dying to this guy, though I do have to appreciate that there isn't any ragdolling of sorts. Once your character hits their end, they just drop. I don't know why, I just find that kind of funny. At least more funny than I would just a normal ragdoll. Maybe it's just because it's not something I expect nowadays. Honestly, the boomerang is a very cool weapon, but as you'll see as I begin to use it, that I am not using it properly. If you use it properly, you have something that you can launch into a crowd over and over again pretty quickly, but I keep letting it fall off the screen and respawn in my hand, which lengthens its casting time considerably, or, well, reload time, and lowers its effectiveness quite a bit. it's not obvious here, all the little mistakes start to get to me a little bit, and you can see that it's frustrating since I switched back to the swords and decide to just tank out most of his attacks to end the fight as fast as I can. Not commended. I know it's probably game balance or game design 101, but it will never not be frustrating to see that your enemies have a longer maximum range than you do. Of course, it's meant to incentivize you, the player, to be more mobile and not turtle up, but it will never be not frustrating that seeing that disparity. And it's this room that taught me the true strength of a boomerang, in that it isn't stopped by hard surfaces. Most projectiles will stop if it hits a platform that has a solid barrier, as it is, as in a platform that you can't fall through normally. But the boomerang has no such limitation, which is quite handy in rooms like this. If only I could use it properly. In about a minute, we're going to go ahead and call for a coffee break. If you're wondering why I do those, well, I just feel like them. Don't worry though, I won't be talking during it, as I do believe coffee breaks, as all breaks, should be sacred and nothing should be going on inside of them except music. So that's all that there's gonna be. You can feel free to sit through it or skip past it. I won't begrudge either option. In case you're curious if there's any conditions for me calling a coffee break, for the most part, no. I call them whenever I feel like either the video itself needs a break or I need a break and I feel like it's a good time to do so, which is why they haven't been in every video so far. That said, they have no set time, no set length, and no set music, obviously, since it's just gonna be whatever music is playing at the time. But there does have to be music, so there has to be a game state where I can put that music on, and I don't want to interrupt gameplay for it either. So it's either going to be in empty rooms, between levels, after a tutorial, etc. Technically speaking, I could put multiple coffee breaks in a video, and the only reason I haven't is because I haven't felt like it's needed yet. Though in longer videos, you might see that happen. Just telling you now. Alright, that said, let's go ahead and go. Let's go ahead and get on with it. Let me tell you, this Bloodstone ring purchase was seemingly meant to be, considering it cost the exact total amount of money that I was holding at the time. Let me tell you, my run probably would have been a lot less successful if I didn't have this on hand. Not that it got me too much further, but it got me as far as I was used to getting to at this point. Now, I don't use the katana here. I use it in a future run. Here I sell it in so that I can afford the blowgun because I used the blowgun before and it got me pretty close to beating the second boss. Though, crucially, it did not help me beat the second boss, and it didn't help me here either. But it got me as far as I did get to that point. However, I will be using the katana later, purely by chance, I do believe again. But the katana has one key feature that isn't clear to those who are watching, but is clear to me controlling the player. The katana can be used by simply holding down the mouse button and doesn't need a click for every attack, like most melee weapons have up to this point. Trust me, it's more of an advantage than you think, especially if you have trouble handling the controls under times of stress as it is. It's only here, quite by accident, and you can see me struggling for a second, that I figure out that on the fast travel map, you can actually click and drag, so you can access more of the map at once. If you noticed that I was being weird, trying to access travel points that were just out of sight, or going through multiple travel points, just to get to the place that I really wanted to go, it's because I did not know about this feature until now, and I only discovered it by accident. Again, I really wish that the non-item drops that you get from bosses had descriptions for what they were. Here, I chose the Black Heart just to see what it will do, but it was quite disappointing in that it only grants you plus 10 max HP. Now, granted, there might be circumstances where you might want that above all else. I'm fairly new to the game still. This is only my first few runs, and I haven't gotten past the third boss yet. But to me, so far, this seems like the worst steal out of all the items that you could get so far. Especially since that plus 10 max HP is not permanent, and you can probably get that much HP randomly just from eating random food from the restaurants as it is. Or from equipment, but focusing on max HP over other statistics is generally ill-advised. If you feel that I'm wrong or biased in this opinion, however, do feel free to say so in the comments. as I lay here dead, I really must say that this boss music is an honest boss, and that I feel sorry that my death had to cut it off. I only say this in hindsight, but that shield probably helped me way more than I acknowledged at the time. Or realized, I should say. There's the katana that proved to be such an unexpected boon on this run. You'll see what I mean when it comes time for the boss fight. Also, there goes me forgetting that dash damage, as long as you're holding a melee weapon, is a thing for the millionth time in a row. I end up picking the Papa Green Path here, and let me tell you, that also made this run much easier using the katana, because, well, it fires where you fire, and as long as you're aiming in roughly the same direction as the enemy, then you have a ranged attack, even if you are using a melee weapon. Ah, beautiful. It's always a pleasure when things work out exactly so. It's the same feeling of euphoria when you manage to carry all your groceries home in one trip. This frying pan here helps me make a decision in how I will pick my equipment from this point on. While stats and the actual abilities of the equipment will always be a factor, of course, this is where I realized that convenience was, if not the majority, then the most key aspect of any equipment. You don't see it here. You only see me swinging the weapon, but you see me testing it. And what I'm testing is how the weapon swings. Can I hold down the button, or does it require a click for each swing? If it requires a click for each swing, that's a massive point against it. If it can be held down, that's naturally a massive point for it. And that is going to be the rule from now on. Though the final weapon for this one in particular does bend those rules a bit, but only because of how fun it is. You'll see what I mean when we get there. I just realized that if the things that Hiroaki here serves at the restaurant are meals, dinners, lunches, and etc., then after a boss fight, the dishes she serves are considered dessert, at least according to her own dialogue. Though I do cringe at my incorrect choice here, in that I went for, again, the most satiety reducing item instead of an item that could give me actual substats. Now, the first time I could forgive myself because obviously I didn't know any better. I didn't know the other items would sell out the second I bought one. But this time I really just forgot and I had no excuse there. That said, luckily this time I didn't suffer too much because the restaurant is only a room away from the entrance and I managed to stumble across it right away. But still, that could have done a lot more damage if I was a bit more unlucky. I'm still not sure what the deal with lumber is. Like, it's listed as a weapon that has a 95% chance of breaking. Like, that makes you think right away that it's obviously not meant to be used as a weapon, right? And maybe you're supposed to bring it to someone, or maybe you're supposed to do something with it, but I'm not actually sure. Maybe, as you'll figure out later, it has something to do with the shrines, or the altars, I should say. But this board is a bit of an enigma. I don't want to have to look it up. I am not against looking up if this board has any special interactions, but I'd rather discover it on my own. So I won't be going out of my way for it either. While I do understand not spawning all of the room's enemies at once so as to not swarm the player with waves of enemies that they can't easily deal with, I'm not sure how I feel about these hidden ambush corners that nevertheless still seal up the room as if all of the enemies haven't been defeated. I'm not sure how to feel about it because you could leave without dealing with these ambushes, and I'm pretty sure they just stay there. And I don't think that's a bad thing, to be clear, but I'm not sure it's a good thing either, which I guess is exactly the stance one will take if one doesn't know how to feel about it. I really do like the faces on everything, though I wonder if this room is a special because those blocks normally only show up to block exits to other rooms, but in this case, it blocked off the bottom half of the room so that you don't trigger that the entire space is ambushes by trying to get there prematurely, which is an interesting thing to consider, lore wise. Though, as of this moment, I'm not sure how much lore this game possesses. There's definitely a lot hiding in the cracks, but for now, as for actual story content, nothing is has yet been made explicit, at least not at this point in the game. You will see more of that of the game's lore later. Now, I was feeling pretty epic here after beating her, and you probably heard the achievement pop. But what is a bit unusual, and I do notice this before I leave the room, is that on the mini map, the witch Niflheim here, or if that's how you're meant to pronounce it, still shows up on the mini map as an enemy. I'm not sure if that means anything, but it's definitely something that I noticed is a since uh, Belial, the first boss, disappears from the minimap once he's defeated. So this is so far unique to her. Actually, looking back on the footage, Niflheim here is the first boss to actually have an icon on the minimap. Belial doesn't have an icon at all, even when they're still alive. Perhaps it's just because Niflheim, unlike Belial, is a mobile enemy and actually needs to have some tracking on. Not that it matters, but I should have equipped this much sooner. Uh, Not that it would have saved me in what ultimately led to this run's end, but what I should have done is use this hammer and replace the first accessory I had, which I believe was a monocle that I bought from the shop at the start of the run, but for some reason I just don't check that slot. So I only equip it more or less right before the boss fight. As I said, it didn't save me, but it might have made the time getting there a little easier. Let me tell you, these lizardmen enemies have a much different feel and make these swamplands feel substantially more difficult than the previous floors. Unlike the previous floors, where enemies spawn in and you just have to work on them and deal with them, the lizardmen, well, they do spawn in like everybody else. They feel more like, however, that they were already here, if that makes sense. Not to mention the fact that they are far more persistent in chasing you than the skeletons and other enemies from the previous floors. It really changes things up, let me tell you. Admittedly, I'm not sure how to feel about this portal. The money that the dungeon seems to take from you come the end of a run seems to be entirely random, or at least it feels random. Like once it took 2/3 of gold away from me, and then it took like less than 2,000. It feels weird. Maybe it's because I picked up a perk and I haven't connected the dots yet, though. That said, when you send gold through this portal, 40% of it is lost. I'm still not sure if that's a good deal or a bad deal, but I suppose there's no bad thing. That's no bad thing to help prepare future runs. And it's not like you need gold that badly. At least you tend to get as much as you need as long as you're not hitting up the shop too much. I might have tried gambling here if I didn't just send away all my money, but From what I've seen so far, in that all of the items initially offered are mostly common items. At this juncture, I don't think it's worth it, though I may try it just to see what happens in future runs. Needless to say, though, don't go gambling. This is a very nice baton, and its spinning is truly unparalleled, but unfortunately, its range is just a bit too lacking to use effectively. And this is where I learned the difference between a trap, which deactivates once all the enemies in the room are perished, and hazards, which persist even after you kill all the enemies. There's also this weird legendary crystal here. Whatever the grading system equivalent is. And it's odd because, as you can see, there's this weird sparkle that persists after you open the crystal. And I'm not sure what that means. As for the weapon that I obtained from here, the Nitro Gauntlets are a lot of fun. I'm glad that this was my first real taste of whatever tier weapons that this pink coloring turns out to be. Now, it's not hold to attack, at least not entirely, but it's not quite click to attack either. You have to charge them up and then let go, and that's when the attack happens. Overall, in terms of convenience, I'm not sure exactly where to put it, since while I do think it's technically less effort than constant clicking, when you really think about it, if you have to charge it and it only activates when you release it, then it's still just clicking, but technically in reverse, which is a funny thing to think about. An anti-click. Still though, very fun. And I think that, despite not being an official set effect, that it still has some synergy with those wing boots that I found earlier, which allows me to fly around a little longer, or at least more effectively than it would have been with the gauntlets alone. Now, I believe that saving this villager is where the story of this game, not the story, the lore will start to deepen. Because introducing this faith keeper and the religion, at least of this small section of the world, feels like it deepens the game's lore significantly. This Perinu, which you'll later learn is the god of adventures. Well, a deity anyway. I'm not sure if god was the exact word used. In any case, Rosen here might be a key to future developments. Now, I didn't comment on it earlier, but if you're wondering what's going on here, I ate a Minotaur steak earlier, and the special ability of Minotaur steak is, in exchange for picking a food that might actually improve your substats, the first time you are killed after eating a Minotaur steak, you are revived immediately, well, after the animation anyway, at half health. It doesn't save me here, but it does at least allow me to get a little bit further. And it really should have shown me that choosing the Nitro Gauntlets, as fun as they are, was probably ill-advised for this particular fight, especially with these tougher shield-bearing lizardmen. Alright, this is the end of the voiceover. Recording all these voice lines was actually quite fun. I do think I earned some valuable experience, not just in video making, but in examining my own gameplay. That said, it is going to be a nightmare to subtitle everything, but it's something that I have to do anyway. That said, I'll just go ahead and stop talking and let this now somewhat outdated feeling in outro take over. Once again, thank you for bearing with me and do take care. Alright, full disclosure, I am recording this outro as I have finished recording all my gameplay. I have not yet begun recording any of the planned voiceover lines, but even as it is, it's abundantly clear that this video will not be ready the same day, if for no other reason than the subtitles and rendering will take far longer than what little time there is left. Quite frankly speaking, even if I started this much earlier in the day, I don't think I would have made it in time with how much work this has unexpectedly turned out to be. Perhaps I could streamline it in the future, but for now, if I want this to be a norm, like I hoped for it to be, I will have to streamline this process somehow, or at least make things more efficient. That said, I do really find myself loving this game, even if it is abundantly clear that I am no good at it. Well, granted, I don't think I'm doing terribly. I did manage to beat the first boss repeatedly. I don't. I think I've only lost to them once, though obviously, if that turns out to not be the case, oops, sorry for lying. I'm not. It's not meant as a lie. It's just that my memory is shoddy and I don't exactly remember things as well as I should be able to. But I did manage to beat the second boss for the first time today. There was a couple of close calls on there, but yeah, that was a very wonderful thing to experience. Reckon it'll only be a matter of time before I beat the next boss as well. Though it does gall me that I didn't even manage to bring it down to half health before they managed to end my run. That said, once again, I wholeheartedly recommend this game. It is more than worth the money, and there's just so much in it. Like, I haven't even properly messed with set effects, and I imagine that there's even more going on later. And I just unlocked the Perinu blessings, I believe, if I remember the word right, and yeah, this game is wonderful, and I'm really surprised it didn't get the attention it deserved. Granted, I'm sure plenty of people played it, but this game was never mainstream, at least not as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, uh, Carmen, could you go ahead and sign us out? No new prop on the wall today for obvious reasons. uh, well, no, never mind. It's been done since the start. Oops. Did I do that? Yeah, I probably did. Carmen, where are you? You